Hey, what's up everyone? I'm SuperSonicJB. Don't mind me, just doing my daily grinding sessions of killing a bunch of enemies inside a dungeon. I bet that one hurt. Now, I've also come to this dungeon in search of a date. I mean, I saw a bunch of girls on Tinder saying how much they'd love to explore a man's dungeon. So then I came to the nearest dungeon here, and now I'm fighting off monsters and hoping that I pick up some hot chicks. Thing is, I've been exploring this dungeon for weeks now, and I haven't come across any women at all. Only thing I come across in this dungeon is this game about how to pick up girls in a dungeon. I mean, I'm trying that right now and I'm getting nowhere! Why can't I get a hot goddess in my life? Have you ever asked yourself, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? What's a girl? Well, if you said yes, then this anime right here is perfect for you. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? It's an anime with an extremely long title, though I'm sure some isekais out there could give that title a run for its money. It's an anime about a young, weak adventurer named Belle, who dreams of becoming a strong hero someday. In his world, gods and goddesses have descended from the heavens in search of excitement, and have made organizations of adventurers, who worship them, to join their cult, or join them in uncovering the secrets of the dungeon under the city of Orario. In the dungeon, adventurers and support units fight off monsters to become stronger and collect crystal shards, which can be used to craft magic items or sold for lots of money. Our protagonist Belle supports the goddess Hestia, or as I like to call her, Best Girl! And turns out he's the only supporter of Hestia, which I always thought was kinda weird because, come on, look at her! She's got awesome hair! I mean, as Dr. Seuss once said, anime waifus with twin tail hair are all you need in life to care. At least, I think he said that at one point. Probably just best to assume he did. Anyways, during Belle's adventures exploring the dungeon, he meets up with all kinds of unique and interesting characters. And as the title says, he meets up with some girls in the dungeon. He even develops romantic feelings for a girl named Ice. Come on man, you got Hestia right there. She's way better. Now personally, I really like this anime. The storytelling is pretty good, and the characters are great. The anime was a big success too. In fact, it became so successful, it ended up getting its own video game, just like Shark Tale. The game was called Is It Wrong to Try and Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Infinite Combate. Or is it Combates? This game is a retelling of the anime with visual novel storytelling and dungeon crawler gameplay similar to games like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Now to be honest, I never even knew this game existed until recently. And since I do love the anime, I thought I'd check out the game and see what it's like, so let's go ahead and review Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Infinite Combate.
It's showtime!
Let's start things off by looking at the game's case, and well, it kinda sucks. I don't know, but I feel like the character art here isn't that great, and what on earth is that lame background? It's just a generic sky with clouds. I mean, I could take a pic of that outside and slap some characters on it, and bam, there's a lame video game cover. Alright, enough, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Let's play the game. The game starts off just like every anime game ever, with an anime style intro. It's a fine intro, but I've seen way better. Anyways, we are then greeted by one of the most generic menu screens I've ever seen in the game. What was this, made an RPG Maker or something? Anyways, we jump into a new game and agree with a naked Hestia. Too lewd! Too lewd! She talks about how the gods got bored one day and went down to the surface to live amongst the humans and have a more exciting life. Basically, she's just telling us info about what I already explained earlier with the gods and the humans living together and becoming a familia, who go on exciting quests and explore the dungeon. We then meet our protagonist Belle, who just woke up from a dream he was having about his childhood. He is awoken by the goddess Hestia, who definitely looks way better in this series than in other media. So Belle is going to the dungeon today so he can become stronger and earn some money. Off the bat, I gotta say, these cutscenes just feel so lifeless and lame. The only movement will be the characters' mouths and a blink every once in a while, and that's just kinda boring. In most visual novels, the characters will be still, but at least every now and then, they'll change up their pose. But in this game, the characters never, and I mean never, move their bodies around. I mean, imagine it like, hey, what's up everyone, I'm SuperSonicJB, can you believe this weather we're having? Ha 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 ha. Now every once in a while, you get to see a cool screenshot instead of these lifeless cutscenes, and they're way cooler for sure, but most of them were just ripped straight out of the anime. I've seen Hestia pout more than I've seen Belle move. Anyways, we go to the guild and meet up with Aina, and she gives us many tutorials on how to play the game. The main thing we learned is how the dungeon gameplay works. Each dungeon has an objective you're supposed to complete. These can be things like getting to a certain floor, collecting a lost item, collecting a certain amount of items, or beating a certain amount of enemies. Some quests you go on have a time limit too, but thankfully, their timer isn't too tight. You'll be exploring the dungeon both in the story mode and during quests that you can pick up in the guild. The guild will give you many quests every time you progress through the game's story, and each quest can give you all kinds of rewards, like items and money. How the gameplay works is that you run around the dungeon, use the A button to do fast light attacks, the X button does slower but strong attacks, the Y button does magic attacks, and the B button lets you dash forward. Remember, I'm playing the Switch version, so button inputs on other consoles will be different. And that's why they call me Captain Obvious. Now the dungeon itself is pretty simple to move around in, and avoiding enemies can be pretty easy if you want to speed run through it. Enemies themselves can be pretty easy to take down, and there's a decent variety of them to fight in the game. But some of these enemies make the most annoying sounds ever imaginable. Take the goblins for example. They scream every time you hit them at the top of their lungs, and once they die, they make this annoying sound that sounds like they're about to spit on you. Oh god! These sounds especially get annoying when you're fighting multiple goblins at once. My gosh, stop screaming in pain so much! It's not like I'm killing you all! Oh wait, I am. Each enemy has its own unique attacks too, which is pretty cool. Plus you can get some crystal shards and other items after beating enemies, which can be used in the shop, but more on that in a sec. As you continue playing through the game's story, you'll get some party members who can assist you while exploring the dungeon. They mainly are used to give your character boosts during combat sections, like increasing your magic or physical attack power. Once you use up your powers, you will have to kill some more enemies before your gauge goes back up again. You can also use your own special attack, which can deal great damage on enemies. And you get to choose your party members at the start of a mission. Now this game has two different story modes. One is for Belle and the other is for Eyes. In the beginning of Belle's story, you only get him in your party, but as you play on, you'll unlock other characters to be in your party. Eyes, however, gets several party members who can assist her in the dungeon, which honestly makes your gameplay sections in the beginning of the game way better. Plus, she starts off with better stats than Belle, so yeah, in the first half of the game, she's way more fun to play as. Though Belle does have the better storyline. Belle's storyline follows the anime pretty well, with some new stuff included. And Ai's story takes place at the same time as Belle's, and it's told through her point of view. At the end of each chapter, the two stories will have an ending that connects together, which can be cool, but it does lead to you basically rewatching the same cutscenes multiple times, just in another character's point of view. Thankfully you can see it through these scenes, so that's helpful. Anyways, after you complete a quest, you get some items as a reward, and your XP will go up. You also get some money and skill points. You can use the skill points you earned to increase your skill points in the skill sheet. These skills can be things like increased attack, more HP, stronger magic attack, etc. These skills cost a lot of skill points though, so if you want to get them all, you have to do a lot of grinding. Meanwhile, you can use your money you've earned to buy weapons, armor, and items at the market. You can also grant some attributes towards your weapons, which can give them elemental powers. Finally, I can light my sword on fire! Now, one of the weakest things this game has going for it is the bland and boring dungeon design. These dungeon floors are just so basic and lame. There's not much happening here besides you just running forward and killing enemies. With other dungeon crawlers like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, you get all kinds of cool puzzles and traps you can come across on any dungeon floor. But here in this game, not much happens inside the dungeon. Each floor feels pretty much the same, aside from a few different colors, and that sucks. Now this game was made by a small development team known as Mages, and you can definitely tell while playing that this game didn't have that big of a budget. They couldn't even afford to let Belle move for crying out loud. Graphically, the game's okay, but nothing to write home about. The game does have some boss battles, and they exist alright. They're pretty simple, just dodge their attacks and slice them with your sword. But to be honest, these boss battles are so repetitive. The bosses typically just have one attack you need to dodge, and they mash that attack like there's no tomorrow. Plus their health bar is way too big, and if you die, you'll have to start from the very beginning of the fight. Come on, how was I supposed to know he'd slam his fist into the ground for the 32nd time in a row? As for the game's music, it's nothing that great. Lots of the songs repeat throughout the game, and most of them sound like generic medieval tunes. Now the best thing about this game is the story. Like I said, it follows the anime pretty well, with some new stuff added. We get to experience Belle's adventures as he meets new friends and he joins his party, and we get to learn more about Eyes and her squad too. By the way, Eyes' squad works for the goddess Loki. And why is Loki a woman here? Come on, you're supposed to be Thor's brother, not Brock's cousin!
Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
Now yeah, the visual novel cutscenes in this game are pretty lifeless, but at least the story is well written. Now the game does have multiple endings for both Belle and Eyes, and these endings involve you finding love or friendship with somebody. Obviously, Hestia's ending for Belle was my favorite, and Eyes' ending with Belle was also pretty cool. Some endings felt kind of weird and out of place though, like why is Eyes dating Loki?
Loki!
And honestly, that's all I really have to say about this game. So let's start wrapping things up. So overall, it's a run to try to pick up girls in a Dungeon Infinite Combate was an alright game. The gameplay had some fun moments, but it was just too repetitive. The cutscenes just looked so bland and the music was pretty forgetful. I did enjoy the story, but I've seen the anime already, so it's not like I was experiencing anything new here. I'd say the game's at its best once you max out your skill sheet and play some quests after that. because then the gameplay feels so much more fun. But not fun enough to make Belle move!
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
So yeah, that was Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Infinite Combat. And like I said, it was an okay game. It wasn't the best by any chance, but it also wasn't the worst. Well, at least I learned something after playing through that game, and that is to never ever try to pick up girls in a dungeon, because it only leads to misery and death. I bet that's why Belle's frozen solid there.